r/NoSleep. Every year, I light a candle for the Christmas spirit. And this year, I want to let the candle go out. They say Christmas is the season of giving, joy, and miracles. But for me, it's a season of survival. You see, I've met the Christmas spirit. Not the one you read about in cheery holiday books or see in TV specials. No, this one is real. And it's terrifying. I stopped telling people the story when I turned 12. By then, it was clear no one would believe me. But I'm older now, and the weight of this secret grows heavier every year. It started when I was 6. That Christmas Eve, my mom and dad were busy hosting our family's annual holiday dinner. The house was glowing with warm lights, laughter, and the smell of freshly baked gingerbread. I'd spent most of the evening sneaking cookies off the dessert table while avoiding hugs from relatives. As the clock struck midnight and the party wound down, my parents tucked me into bed with the usual, "Santa's coming soon, so go to sleep, sweetheart." But I couldn't sleep. Not because of the excitement of presents, but because I heard a faint sound, like the distant ringing of bells. Curiosity got the better of me. I crept downstairs, tiptoeing past the living room where the Christmas tree stood adorned with glittering ornaments and an angel perched at the top. That's when I saw her. A woman in a shimmering, emerald green cloak stood before the tree. She was beautiful in a way that made my skin crawl, with long, silver hair that cascaded like icicles and eyes that glowed faintly red in the dim light. "Merry Christmas, child," she said, her voice like the crackle of firewood. "Are you Santa's helper?" I whispered, clutching the banister. "No, my dear. I'm something far older. I am the Christmas spirit," she replied, smiling wide enough to show sharp, white teeth. Before I could scream or run, she produced a golden candle, unlit, from the folds of her cloak. "I come to those who are special. You, my dear, have been chosen to play my game." "Game?" I asked, my voice trembling. She nodded and snapped her fingers. A match appeared, hovering in the air, and struck itself against the golden candle. It ignited with a brilliant, unnatural flame, blue and green, like the northern lights. The rules are simple. Each Christmas Eve, you must keep this candle burning until sunrise. If the flame dies out before then, something unfortunate will happen. What happens? Her smile grew wider. "Let's just say you'll make the naughty list. Permanently." Before I could ask anything else, she placed the candle in my hands. It was heavier than it looked, the flame oddly cold despite its brightness. And then she vanished. That first year, I didn't fully understand the stakes. I thought it was some weird dream or a prank. But I sat by the candle all night, watching it flicker. Nothing unusual happened. The next morning, I tried telling my parents about the woman and the candle, but they laughed it off. "Such a vivid imagination," my mom said, touseling my hair. By the third year, the game's consequences became clear. I was 9, and I'd grown careless. At some point during the night, I dozed off. When I woke up, the candle had burned out. I panicked, staring at the blackened wick, and that's when I heard the screaming. Rushing to the window, I saw flashing red and blue lights down the street. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, had died in a fire. The cause? A candle left unattended. It wasn't mine, I knew that, but deep down, I understood. The Christmas spirit had warned me. Every year since, I've been forced to keep the candle burning. As I grew older, the games grew harder. The flame would flicker in ways it hadn't before, as if taunting me. Once, the candle nearly tipped over on its own. Another time, a gust of wind blew through a closed window, threatening to snuff it out. And every year, she returned, always at midnight, to present me with the candle. Always with the same chilling smile. "I see you're learning," she'd say. "But can you keep it up forever?" Last Christmas Eve, I came closer to losing than ever before. Around 3 a.m., a snowstorm knocked out the power. The house plunged into darkness, and the candle's flame began to sputter. I shielded it with my hands, desperate to keep it alive. That's when I saw her reflection in the window. "You're so close, child," she whispered, her voice curling around me like smoke. "One little mistake, and it's all over." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My heart pounded as I held the candle steady, praying for dawn. When the first rays of sunlight broke through the storm clouds, the flame finally steadied. She was gone. But I knew she'd return. Now, Christmas is 7 days away, and I don't know if I have the strength to keep playing this game. I've searched for answers, trying to figure out what she is, why she chose me, or if anyone else is cursed like this. I've found nothing. The candle sits on my desk, unlit, waiting for her to come back. And I know she will. All I want for Christmas this year is to let the candle go out. But I can't. Because deep down, I know what will happen if I do. And I don't want to end up on her naughty list. But this year, something feels different. The air is colder than usual, and the nights seem unnaturally long. Shadows stretch further than they should, and even the sound of carolers outside feels hollow, their voices carrying an eerie dissonance. I swear I've seen her reflection in windows that shouldn't show her. I've started preparing early. The candle sits on my desk, flanked by a fortress of makeshift windbreakers, books, towels, and even an overturned glass vase. I've tested every window in the house, every door, making sure no sudden gust of air can snuff out the flame. Still, I can't shake the feeling that it won't be enough this time. Christmas Eve arrives. The house is quiet. My parents are out visiting friends for a late-night holiday party, leaving me alone, a rarity. Part of me wonders if she had something to do with that. At exactly midnight, the air grows icy, and a familiar scent fills the room, cinnamon and smoke. I hear the faint jingle of bells, not merry and cheerful, but slow and deliberate, like a warning. Then, she appears. The Christmas spirit materializes in front of the tree, her emerald cloak shimmering, her silver hair cascading like a frozen waterfall. But this time, she looks different. Her once faintly glowing eyes now burn like embers, and her smile is wider, sharper. "Merry Christmas, my dear," she says, her voice curling around the room like a fog. I don't respond. My hands grip the edge of my chair, knuckles white. She steps forward, producing the golden candle from within her cloak. This year, it looks darker, the once pristine wax now streaked with black. "You know the drill," she says, handing it to me. "But this year, there's a twist." I hesitate. "What? What do you mean?" Her grin widens, revealing teeth far too long and sharp. "This year, you're not just keeping the flame alive. You're keeping yourself alive." Before I can react, she snaps her fingers, and the room plunges into darkness. The only light comes from the candle's eerie green-blue flame, now flickering violently in my hands. The first hour is uneventful, though my heart races with every creak of the house. I sit by the candle, watching it as though my life depends on it, because it does. Then, at 1 a.m., the first attack comes. A sound echoes from upstairs, footsteps, heavy and deliberate. "Mom? Dad?" I call out, even though I know it isn't them. The footsteps grow louder, descending the staircase. My breathing quickens as I glance toward the stairs, the candle trembling in my grasp. A shadow appears, impossibly tall and thin, its limbs unnaturally long, its head nearly scraping the ceiling. It stops at the edge of the living room, its featureless face turning toward me. I clutch the candle tighter, its flame sputtering as though sensing the creature's presence. "Stay back!" I shout, though my voice is shaky. The figure tilts its head, as if amused, and takes a step closer. I scramble to shield the candle with my free hand, the flame quivering under my panicked breaths. Then, just as the shadow looms over me, the flame steadies, flaring brighter. The creature recoils, its form dissolving into black mist that dissipates into the air. I exhale shakily, but I know this is just the beginning. By 2 a.m., the room feels colder than ever. Frost begins creeping along the windows, and the walls seem to groan under the weight of an unseen force. Then, the whispers start. At first, they're faint, barely audible over the crackling of the candle. But they grow louder, more insistent. "Let it go out. End it all. You'll never win." I try to block them out, covering my ears with one hand while clutching the candle with the other. But the voices only grow louder, circling me like vultures. And then I see them, figures standing just outside the frosted windows, their faces pressed against the glass. Their eyes are hollow, their mouths twisted into agonized screams, though no sound escapes. They pound on the windows, their hands leaving streaks of black ichor. The glass begins to crack, spiderwebbing under the pressure. "No," I whisper, tears streaming down my face. "You're not real. You're not real." The flame flickers violently, and the cracks on the glass stop spreading. The figures outside recoil, their forms dissolving into the night. But the whispers remain. By 3 a.m., I'm exhausted, my hands trembling as I hold the candle. The air feels heavier, pressing down on me like a weight. And then she returns. The Christmas spirit steps out of the shadows, her form towering and monstrous, her once beautiful features now grotesque. Her cloak billows unnaturally, as though caught in an invisible storm. "You're doing well, child," she says mockingly. "But how much longer can you last? Why are you doing this to me?" I cry out, my voice breaking. She laughs, a sound like shattering glass. "Because you were chosen, dear. The spirit of Christmas needs a keeper, and you. You were perfect. But nothing lasts forever. What happens if I win?" I demand. Her smile falters, just for a moment. "Win?" "Yeah," I say, my voice steadier now. "What happens if I keep the flame alive until dawn? Do I beat you? Does this stop?" Her eyes narrow, and she takes a step closer. "You think you can beat me? Foolish child." I stand my ground, the candle burning brighter in my hands. "Tell me, or I'll find out myself." She lets out a hiss, her form flickering like a broken projection. For the first time, she seems unsure. The next hour is the hardest. The whispers return, louder and angrier. The shadowy figures pound on the walls, and the air grows colder, my breath visible in the flickering light. But I hold on, focusing on the flame. Finally, at 5:58 a.m., the first rays of sunlight pierce through the frosted windows. The figures vanish, the whispers fade, and the room grows warm again. The Christmas spirit appears one last time, her form now smaller, her cloak dull and tattered. "Well done, child," she says, her voice weak. "You've won. For now." "Does this end?" I ask, clutching the candle tightly. She looks at me with something almost like pity. "Perhaps. If you're strong enough to make it through next year. But the spirit must always have a keeper. And one day, you will falter." With that, she dissolves into a swirl of ash and smoke, leaving the golden candle cold and lifeless in my hands. It's Christmas morning now. The sun is shining, the world feels normal again, but I know the truth. This isn't over. I've won this year, but the spirit will return. And when she does, I'll be ready. Because one day, I'll find a way to end this. One day, I'll snuff out the flame for good.